Sometimes you're going to be tasked to shoot something that's not very fun, a little bit boring, and definitely not glamorized. As a photographer, one of the most common boring ass things that you're going to be asked to shoot is just white on white images. Whether that's food or product or people, at one point someone's going to ask you for white, clean background images. So how do you do it? Is it as easy, as simple as just throwing a flash on there? Not really. So in this video, we'll go over a few of the things that I like to implement to make it easy and reliable and consistent in shooting white on white images. Let's get into it. Hey everyone, welcome back. My name is Sergio and I'm a commercial photographer here in Victoria, BC, and I've come up with 3 common problems that I see or that I've done when creating white on white images. Now this isn't a be-all tutorial, but this is going to be a simple, easy, travel-friendly setup that you can use if you need to shoot white on white for anything from a small product to a full-sized human being. We'll also be breaking down some of the behind the scenes of 2 white on white campaigns that I did just recently shot further along in this video. So the very first common problem that I've noticed, maybe the most obvious one, is your background's just not white. It's gray. I'm not going to say that you absolutely need to be tethering to shoot white on white images, but I will say that what it looks like on the back of your screen on that compressed JPEG is not going to be how it looks when you're actually done and delivering the images. So making sure that that white is actually white, not clipping to the point of overexposed and you washing out everything, but 255 white all across, evenly across your background is a very technical thing to do. In order to make sure that your images come out as white as possible and as cleanly as possible without any bleed onto your actual subject, what you want to do first of all is maybe pull from the video guys in lighting the space, not the face. And what that means is just putting a little bit more care and attention into the environment and the background. Even though it's just white, it's actually quite difficult to do. If you shoot a light from one direction, shooting it to the other, you're going to get a gradient, whether that's from the bottom, the top, the right, or the left. So one of the most important things is not to have one light, but at least 2, if not 4 lights on your background, just making sure you've got a clean separation between that and your subject. There are many ways to separate that background from your subject, whether that's using V-flats or whether that's using just overall flags and scrims to make sure that the light that you're shooting only affects the background as softly and as cleanly as possible and as evenly as possible, so you get 255 all across your sensor without bleeding onto your subject. That bleed onto your subject is what really makes your images look a lot more beginner. And that is our second most common mistake. It's that bleed. It's that inability to create contrast on your product because you just threw a bunch of light everywhere and you've got no shape, you've got no direction. As photographers, we're creating these 3D environments out of a 2D sensor, out of a 2D plane. So we have to create those shadows. We have to create those shapes. You don't want to be afraid of shadows, even if you're shooting white on white. Shadows are your friend. They help tell the story. They help create an environment that you're actually trying to sell. When we experience things, products, food, people in real life, we see them in 3D and we see those shapes. We see those curves. So on a 2D environment, on your phone, on your camera, whatever it is that you're doing, you have to put those shapes back in. You don't want to just blow out the whole scene, make sure that everything is white. I got no shadows, boom, white on white, everything's clean. But then you lose that shape. You lose that sense of realness that actually makes your images look professional. One of the ways that I make sure we get something that looks a little bit more realistic, looks like something that we might see in nature, is combining hard and soft light. If you take a look at over here, you'll see that I've got 2 flashes flanking our product, but really they're just creating a nice soft light onto our floor and our background. If you pay attention, you'll see that the 2 flashes are at very slightly different heights, giving us a little bit more contrast in one direction than the next, because the light that's actually affecting the subject and hitting the table is a very soft feathered part of the flash. And if you look in the same direction as one of my flashes, you'll see I've got another one on top with a small hard reflector, giving us a little bit more of a shadow and a bit more direction on the actual subject. All this together creates a much more flattering, much more realistic look that you would see out in nature. If you take a look at even midday sun, yes, there's a very hard, strong shadow, but you also get a ton of fill from everything that the light is bouncing on around us. Whether you're outside or in a room, it's very common to see this mixture of this hard and soft light. So add it to your next shoot and implement it into your next photo shoot. See how that contrast of the 2 types of lightings together gives something that's even more dynamic than you were originally thinking. Another problem I see all the time is the color being off. And I know that everyone's screens look different and everyone's environment are always going to be different depending on, if you're looking at it with tired eyes or if you're in the middle of the day or if you're at the start of the day or at the end of the day. It always feels different and half of you've got True Tone on your phone anyway, so you can't even see what real color looks like. All of that to say is that if your whites aren't white, we're going to be able to tell. So make sure that everything is color balanced. And it's not just about shooting a gray card and being like, okay, well, there's 5500, that's what we need. Because sometimes your flashes are going to be shooting a slightly different color. Sometimes you're going to have a lot of color cast from your environment adding to the scene. One of the ways to control that, either by adding flags to block out any of the natural and ambient light in your environment, or secondly, shooting at a way that is pitch black, so your camera only sees black and everything else gets filled in by your flashes. Understanding that all your flashes might not always fire at the same temperature all the time is a reality. But for the most part, if you have 3 daylight balanced flashes and you've got a completely neutrally black environment, all those lights should be the same color. I love mixing hard and soft together. I love shooting what seems like such a simple image and making it a more complex technical image. I love getting to nerd out about the technical side of photography, and shooting white on white, though is maybe a little bit boring, a little bit more less glamorized, still gets me super excited to create. I love the ability to shoot something that seems simple and is actually very technical. Photography allows you to do that. It allows you to nerd out as much as you want to. So overcomplicate your next white on white shoot. I realize these are very location based shoots for me, so I try to be as lightweight as possible, and I try to get the job done with the least amount of gear as possible, despite what it might look like sometimes. But this is one of those things that you're going to be asked to shoot often, so trying to shy away from it or not knowing how to do it, maybe if you're just doing it for your own on your own time, it's a good practice that will ultimately level up your photography. I hope you liked it. I hope you learned something new today. Maybe leave a like on your way out and subscribe if you're new here, and I'll see you guys in a couple of days.